I'm in Shenandoah National Park, and this is US 211, and I'm at a hairpin turn. Some people call it turn bridge. This used to be the Piedmont picnic area, and well, let's don't forget about the Blue Bomber. Got the Blue Bomber. That's heading down towards Sperryville. Going to close up the Blue Bomber and head up here to the hairpin turn and get on past Mountain Trail. And I'm planning to climb up to the saddle and go over the saddle and down the west side some, looking for a homestead that was owned by Huffman, H-U-F-F-M-A-N. The elevation here is 1,400 feet. All right, well, here's the hairpin turn. Hey, past Mountain Trailhead. Here's where we're going, and you can tell from the color this section of the guardrail's been replaced, but and it's already taken a couple of hits. So guardrail versus the bumper of your car. Anyway, let's head on up the trail. .73 miles into my hike. I'm up to the saddle, and the elevation here is 1,790 feet. There's a signpost. Now, modern day trails, there's only one way to go. That's coming up from 211 past Mountain Trail, and it makes a hard left right there and continues on up past Mountain. I've got a bunch of different hikes showing this, and then on this side, if you turn right instead, then you're heading up an old abandoned trail that takes you up to the summit of Oventop Mountain. That's Oventop over there. We're going to keep going straight. This is another abandoned trail, old road actually, takes you over the top right there. And we're going to head down the west side of the mountain a ways, and then we're going to look to the left for a driveway that leads into the homestead that was owned by Huffman, H-U-F-F-M-A-N. And from reading the appraisal that I'll show you when I do the map talk, there's quite a bit of stuff over here, so including a summer house, 2 different tenant houses, a swimming pool, a pump house, running water, and something like 1,200 trees in an orchard, which is a lot. So anyway, let's go down here and see what we can find. I've been down here before, but I wasn't armed with enough information to really go explore it. But now I think I've got enough waypoints. I've looked at the LiDAR, the old maps from the 30s and in the 20s and 30s, and we'll see if we can find something this time. Well, that's where I came from, except I actually came from over here. I had to go around that bend in the road. Lots and lots of blown down trees and nasty stuff growing up. So Anyway, I went around, I took a left and came over this way, and now I am back on the road. See that? So we'll head on down, keep heading down this way. .13 miles into my hike. I've been trying to follow the old road as best as I could. I had to make a few detours though. The elevation here is 1,660 feet. And this right here, going off to the right, that'll be another bushwhack hike. That's a driveway heading up to a couple of homesteads owned by Clark, C-L-A-R-K. I'll point them out when I do the map talk. But for now, we're going to continue on down here and start looking for the driveway that goes over to the Huffman. Actually, that might be it right there. I gotta check my coordinates. But anyway, that looks like a creek down there going to the left, but it's actually the road. That's what erosion does after, 100 years of no maintenance. So. .3 miles into my hike, I'm down to 1,600 feet. There's the road, and man, there's a lot of nasty growing up over here. Anyway, if you step back and take a look, this is the driveway. There's a Pepsi can laying down there just to the right of that tree. So that's laying in the driveway. And so then this goes down and it crosses over some drainage and then starts heading back uphill. The homestead was over there on the other side. So I am going to look for the easiest way for me to get over there, which might not be going down through this driveway. Okay, I'm close to the drainage, but I haven't crossed it yet. But this is the left side of the driveway. Right there, the stones are stacked up taller than me, so 6 feet or so. Here's the driveway. Here's the right-hand side armored up. I can hear water running. I got to figure out a way to get across the creek without getting wet. Okay, I'm getting ready to cross over. Here's the drainage. Over there looks like a giant concrete, some kind of a concrete post or something that's tipped over, dished out at the top. But anyway, here's a drainage coming down. Right there's a clay pipe. Over there's a clay pipe. And then this is drainage, Butterwood Branch drainage. I'm going to see if I can tiptoe across these rocks right here. I'm going to stick my head through that hole in the wall there and see what's up with that. I had to come over from here around the driveway because it's like a swamp right over there. Also, this area here is all terraced off. That could be what I saw on the LiDAR. And maybe the house was here, because this is high enough up off the creek that you wouldn't have a flooding problem. And then the road could have come in. I got to figure out if that's a driveway back there. So, you know, you could have a driveway coming in, make a right, and go above and behind a house. And then this whole area here could have been, I mean, it's definitely got the terraced off look to it. I'm going to mark it, and I'll compare it to the LiDAR when I get home. But over there, that's really, I'll go down a little further, get some more stills, but it's really, the stone wall is really stacked up over here. Okay, I'm starting to change my tune about that terraced off area. That might be the front yard. This is a big pile of stone or something. I got to go over here and check it out. Big rock pile over there. Even looks dug out. See more rocks piled up over there. So I'm going to mark this. I think this is where the main house was. Right there is a bucket. And then over there, that'd be the road coming in. And I'll get some stills of some of that. Some of that, I'm not sure what it is. Okay, so these are the steps going up to the house. And then the house is that all that rubble there. And then over this way down, and then there's the wall, the stone wall. And this is like a driveway here. And then down below that is that terraced off area. And then you get down to the drainage, and then you go across the drainage, and then the road coming in's over there. Maybe 1/10 of a mile. I'll get some more stills of this, and I'll mark this with the GPS. What's kind of interesting, if you look at that, if you look at there's an indentation in the concrete there that looks like a cross. Interesting. Could have been a religious family, I don't know. But anyway, I'll get some more stills of this, and behind me are some more steps. So we'll get some shots of that too. Oh, one more thing I forgot to mention. There's the steps. And right there are some daffodils coming up. And the other stonework is back behind me here, so we'll get some shots of that too. Bunch of daffodils up here, but I don't know. This is above the level of the house. I'm not sure why they're up here, but people don't plant flowers for no good reason. There's a shot looking down at the driveway coming in. Maybe you can see the water. It's a swamp down there. And then from there over to the road isn't very far, but it's really nasty hiking. So I may follow this up a little further and then try and cross just for fun. Getting ready to leave this area. I'm gonna mark this with another GPS marker because this is all dug out and armored up. It almost, if you back up some, and there's a driveway that comes through here right there. The main driveway coming in's there. But this looks like a place where you would come up with wagons or trucks or something to either just store them or maybe load stuff in here. I know there was a lot of apple trees in here, an orchard, and there's all this here. And then one thing I'll point out right there, that big flat rock has a drill hole in the middle and it's marked with a cross, just like the side of the steps. And behind me some clay pipe. So over there's the loading area. I crawled up here, and right next to the loading area is a pretty good sized pile of rocks right here. Big pile of rocks, and there's a clay pipe right there, a little lighter color than the rest and a little bigger in diameter. Oh, finally made it back out to the road. 1.7 miles into my hike. The elevation here is 1,580 feet. The driveway I went down on is down there around that bend, 200 feet or so, and over there's the the Huffman homestead. And that was pretty nasty getting across there. So instead of coming back that way, I came upstream over there on the other side of the mountain and then came across right about here. You still have to push your way through, and instead of crossing one big stream, you got to cross about 3 smaller feeders, but it was fairly straightforward getting up to here. Let's see, I've got 3 or 4/10 of a mile back up this way to get back up to the saddle. And then once I get up to the saddle, it's downhill all the way back to my car. So actually you can see the top of the mountain up there. That's where I'm headed. This is a map of today's hike. The quadrangle name is Thornton Gap, 1994, and I went bushwhacking looking for the homestead that was owned by Joseph A. Huffman. I looked him up on Find a Grave. He's buried over in Luray, and he lived from 1859 to 1937. So the park was created, I think it was in 1935. So by 1935, the state of Virginia would have taken his land, and he would have been back over in Luray somewhere. This is Route 211. It's inside the park. This is just a little bit west of Sperryville. And I parked right here. It goes by different names. Piedmont Picnic Area. This is also known as Turn Bridge. They've renamed the Turn Bridge Trail to Pass Mountain Trail now. So Pass Mountain Trail comes up here and then when you get to the saddle, we make a left here, and Pass Mountain Trail continues on up this way. So you get on Pass Mountain Trail and you climb up to the saddle, and then the only supported trail these days is to take a left and head this way. But if you go over the top of the saddle, now you're on an abandoned road. Follow this on down. When I got to here, I pointed out a driveway that heads up this way to the right and takes you up here. This will be another bushwhack. I continued to follow the road on down until I saw the driveway. Bushwhacked across the drainage here. When I got over here, this area right in through here was real swampy. So I climbed over the fence, and I found myself down in here, which is a real flat, wide, terraced off looking area. And I thought maybe the house was there. There's a really tall stone wall right here, which turned out to be the driveway. So in other words, you come up on the driveway and then you make a right. And that big stone wall just reinforces the low side of the driveway so it won't, wash down the side of the mountain. And found myself, when I got up on the driveway, I saw a huge rock pile up in through here. And then finally I found the stairs. Got some pictures of those. Big concrete set of steps there. And then behind the steps, there's a big rock pile and what looks to me like a hole in the ground that's been filled in through the years with trees and rocks and stuff. Got pictures of that. Then I started heading south this way. There's another smaller set of steps down here. I got a picture of that. Then I continued on the west side of the drainage over here. I continued on to the south and then until I found a convenient spot, and then I cut back over to the road and then followed the road back to my car. Okay, so as always, here look at a few more things. This is a Stony Man 1929 map. Here's where I parked. Here's the saddle right there. This is going down the other side of the mountain, and this is the area where the Huffman homestead was. That's showing the driveway right there. here's a couple of more things. This is this is from the assessment. A couple things I wanted to point out. This dwelling here is the main house. Nearby is a tenant house. And then over on the far west side, I haven't been over there yet, a second tenant house that was abandoned. They had a fairly large orchard there. The mountain orchard is up on the ridge line to the west of the house. It gets pretty steep. Anyway, that was 6 acres, 350 trees, and then the big orchard, which is down near the road coming in, that was 30 acres, 1,813 trees. So they had more than 2,000 fruit trees. It's a pretty big orchard. Fairly short hike, 2.9 miles, and an ascent of 656 feet. And that was the hike for today.